Alright, and daily reminders about how my country is going down the gurgler, we have this report. Unvaccinated parents will be banned from seeing their own sick kids in Western Australia. Hospitals under strict new laws, and from Mark McGowan, who's probably going to lose the next election because of this. But anyway, we got this. Unvaccinated parents will be banned from seeing their own sick children unless they get special exemption under draconian new measures drawn up by Mark Gower. The West Australian Premier, who proudly told his state will have the broadest vaccine passport rules in the country, is bringing in tough new rules on January 31st. The hospital visitation plan would see only those with exemptions from the vaccine to be allowed to visit hospitals, including seeing their own kids. Mr. Gower has promised to make life very hard for those who refuse the jab and have further ostracized themselves from the rest of the country by extending the state's closed border beyond the 5th of February reopening date he had promised. So he's broken a promise on that already. Now, the state's chief health officer said what deemed high-risk settings would be the focus of the government going forward as they look to clamp down on potential spread of Omicron. Which is weird, because I have a friend at work who has just been diagnosed with COVID. I'm not at risk, but he is. Obviously, he's got it. And he was double-vaxxed. The double-vaxxed person at work has literally just been diagnosed with Omicron. So tell me how you stopping parents from visiting a hospital is going to stop the spread. Because apparently it doesn't seem to matter if you have vaxxed or not, you still spread it. So what exactly is the threat here? What exactly is the concern for these parents? Now, if you want to look at it at a different angle, is this about authoritarianism? Is this about a guy who's drunk on power, bringing in draconian laws, and literally clamping down on the people that are refusing to listen to him, and he's doing the equivalent of having a dummy spat? Second one sounds a lot more likely, right? If the vax isn't going to stop the spread, why are you insisting that parents have it to go to the hospital? Well, in case the parents catch Omicron? Right, but they're still going to catch it with the vax anyway. So, what's the concern? What, you concerned that they might be higher risk of being hospitalized? All this is going to do is this is going to force parents to be very, very strict about whether they send their kid to hospital or not. This is probably going to backfire because at the end of the day, parents will be sending their kid to hospital as a last resort. Because guess what? You won't be able to visit them. And it's not going to do anything for the kid, even if he is in hospital, right? Why can't mummy and daddy visit me? Because your mum and dad aren't vaxxed. So the kid is going to be upset and depressed, being in a hospital as it is, not being able to get visit from his parents. That's really what kids need to feel better when they're in hospital, right? They really need that. They really need extra stress in their life while they're in hospital. Everything about this seems like it's just about a drunk on power F-wit who is literally having a dummy spat because people aren't listening to him. This includes hospitals and aged care homes, and while it doesn't stop unvaccinated people seeking treatment or being in such a facility, it does mean they can't visit friends or relatives. Entry into a hospital or RACF by undervaxxed individuals in those jurisdictions is prohibited unless an exemption is placed or permitted under compassionate grounds, such as visiting a member during a terminal phase of their life. So in a situation where the visitation is permitted by the unvaccinated individual, additional risk management procedures are required to meet by the individual. The government would support medical exemptions based on extenuating and compassionate grounds for the unvaxxed, including the end-of-life visits. The government said in a statement that those situations will be decided by a case-by-case decision. That would be asserted on a case-by-case with information collected to assess the risk and the individuals involved and the staff hospital setting in which the exemptions may apply. As for the exemptions, good luck getting one. I have problems with my lungs. Big problems. And this has stopped me from generally wearing a mask. For 18 months, I was fine. I just said I have this condition. They're like, yep, that's fine. And they let me off with just wearing a little badge that says I'm exempt. However, they then turned around 18 months later and said, we need the paperwork. I was like, okay. So I rang up a few doctors. I rang 20 to 30 doctors. And without me even going in, right? So this isn't like a case of like they're thinking I'm faking it or anything like this. I couldn't even get into the door to get the exemption, right? They couldn't even do the check to see if I was exempt or not. I rang them up and I said, do you do exemptions for mask mandates? I have this. And they said, no. I'm like, does this allow me to be exempt from wearing a mask? They said, yes. One of the best reasons we've had. Right. Can I get an exemption? No. Why not? And I was told by a few medical practices that if they give out exemptions for masks, they start getting audited by the government. So it's a case of, we can give you an exemption, but this might be the exemption where the government goes through and does an audit of all of our exemptions, and it's just inconvenient for them. Instead of spending 60 hours a week looking after patients, they're going to have to spend 60 hours a week, for example, going through and getting all the paperwork ready to provide it to the government just to prove that they're not writing out fake exemptions. It's literally a case of you make someone's life so difficult that they don't want to do something, right? And that's what they're literally doing here. They literally say that. They literally say they want to make the unvaxxed life difficult. So it's not much of a stretch to think that they would be doing that for people also getting exemptions as well. So it was expected that the unvaxxed with WAs wanting to visit patients in the hospital setting would require them to wear PPE and possibly provide negative rat tests prior to attending the venue. But you're going to a hospital. You could catch it while walking into the hospital. What's the point? The WACHO noted that these rules are already in place in several other states, including New South Wales, South Australia and Queensland. So from January 1st, unvaxxed WA will soon be barred from a huge number of locations, including hospital gyms, cafes, play centres and bottle shops. So the rules will come into place from January 31st with the roadmap for the new school year and isolation protocols frontline work. Now, obviously, the mainstream media has talked about this, and they're giddy with authoritarianism. They actually think this is a good idea. Let's listen to the mainstream media, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll wrap this up.
West Australian parents who are unvaccinated will be banned from seeing their own sick children in the state's hospitals. Under the new strict laws drawn up by Premier Mark McGowan, the tough new rules will come into play from January 31. Only those with exemptions from the vaccine or under compassionate grounds, including end-of-life visits, will be allowed to step inside the hospitals, which includes visiting their own kids.
What we have known for some time is that from January 31 the measures will be ramped up even more. We also know that the one thing the Premiers and the Prime Minister for that matter have been united on is the need to get vaccinated. So it becomes the ultimate test, doesn't it? If you're unvaccinated and you're going to what's deemed a high risk area, i.e. a hospital or an aged care facility, the ability to go and see your loved one, if you're unvaccinated, may well be taken away from you. And could that be the trigger to make you change your mind? And I guess that's the force at play here. It's a tough decision, isn't it? What would a parent do? Confronted by that, would it make you change your philosophy? Maybe it would, and maybe that's what the government are banking on.
Yeah, and do you have to have, Susie, do you have to have a booster to make you fully vaccinated in this case?
I think at this point they're just wanting people to get the double dose, and they'll deal with boosters a bit further down the track.
They will deal with boosters further down the track. It's always funny how there's always that goal of further down the track, further down the track. Further down the track, you got to get a booster. And once you've got that booster, further down the track, you got to get another booster, right? It just keeps going and going.
But, you know, I'm all for this. I mean, this is not about the rights of parents. This is about the rights of the sick.
No, it's literally about the rights of the parents. That's literally what it's about. By you saying it's not about that, you know full well that you are lying your ass off.
Kids and the rights of the elderly to stay as safe as possible.
While they're in a hospital with COVID patients. What is if you want to make a parent do a rat test and prove they don't have COVID, fine. I'm okay with that idea. But what does a parent with a negative rat test and an unvax going to do to possibly affect someone else? It's not like they're going to catch it, because guess what? You can catch it with the vax anyway, right? So there's no difference there. The only difference is the severity, allegedly. Although, according to my mate who's at work, he's been knocked on his ass for 3 days and he's double vaxxed. So, but at the end of the day, there's only difference between the vax and the unvaxxed. Literally is the case that you don't have it as bad, apparently. So why are you stopping parents from visiting their kids? It doesn't make sense. It's not about keeping people safe. It's about going through and literally forcing people to take this. You are forcing people to do it. Now, I was on Twitter earlier today, and I saw a post from someone that it's like in 5 years' time, people are going to be having heart attacks and whatnot, and the government, it's going to be a case of, but you willingly took this vax, so we're not responsible, right? So they were saying basically, like, say in 5 or 10 years, if it comes out that there were some negative side effects, the government will claim, well, hey, no, you were voluntary. You voluntarily took this. You volunteered for this procedure, right? Despite the fact that the government, threatened to take away kids, locked you up, threatened to throw you in camps, removed your movements, and possibly got you fired and everything else under the sun. But you volunteered. And the interesting thing... So, I can't find a photo of it, but I've got it here in front of me. And it says, vaccinator use only. Number 1, have you, as the vaccinator, completed the pre-vaccination screening? Yes for dose 1, yes for dose 2. Has the recipient been given the opportunity to ask questions? Then it's got dose 1, it's got like a tick for yes, and dose 2, it's got a tick for yes. Number 3, does the recipient consent to being vaccinated today with the COVID-19 vaccination? I'm going to guess, if there are legal problems in the future, if there are issues with the vaccine, you are giving your permission to actually get vaccinated. You are willingly doing that. You are consenting to the vaccination. This could be enough to stop the governments from ever being liable. And to me, that is a big thing. That is a red flag. When I saw this thing, he brought this home because he found it laying on the ground. And I was like, wow, there is literally, it is a you yes, no, whatever, signing it, right? You sign to say that you consent to being vaccinated. So if there's any problems ever in the future, chances are you're going to get told stiff. You consented, you are a willing consentant. You're a willing participant. And that's where I think they're going to come back at you in a few years. Because, basically, as for WA, look, to be honest, I'm not surprised by these laws. Queensland adopted them a few earlier, I think it was like 16th of December, I think they were. It's funny because people I know in Queensland are still unvaxxed and, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just about putting pressure on people to get people with the vax. And I don't understand, well, I possibly have a theory, but there's something else here. This is not about stopping the spread, because this new vaccination doesn't seem to do anything for Omicron. The guy at work still caught it after being double vaxxed. But at the end of the day, there's something else. Something else is going on when they sit there and they're forcing everybody to get it, regardless of how efficient it is at stopping this new variant. And I'd hate to think what it may be. But guys, let me know your thoughts are in that comment section below. Obviously, this video has been helpful. Please smack that like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. Apart from that, guys, we'll see you in the next demonetized video from YouTube. Have a great night and enjoy.